Welcome to the Party Lines, where we look at the big issues, some political, some not so political, and address them from both sides of the aisles. There's a lot happening internationally, and we'll get to that shortly. But here at home, we're looking for answers after Washington signals a major shift on Cusma. Have a look.
Trade Minister Dominic LeBlanc says Canada still doesn't know how the U.S. plans to conduct annual reviews of Cusma. The Trump administration has rejected extending the agreement until 2042 and instead wants yearly reviews that could continue until the deal expires in 2036. LeBlanc says Canada and Mexico asked U.S. Trade Representative Jamieson Greer for details, but no framework has been provided. Canada is holding separate talks with Washington aimed at reducing tariffs on products including steel, aluminum, and softwood lumber. LeBlanc says he's confident Canada can reach a bilateral agreement with the U.S. while bringing more certainty to the Cusma review process.
Well, first of all, I'd like to welcome back Anthony, our guest host, Anthony Feor, today. Anthony, what are your thoughts on the lack of clarity right now? We've had it where it's going to be renewed every year, or looked at every year, but the renewal isn't happening.
Yeah, every business owner I talk to says, you know what I really love, Feor? I love instability.
Yeah,
it's my favorite. It's my favorite thing to invest in. Yeah, might as well invest in Kodak or the Gap. I think this is stupid. We're going to go back to me using the word stupid. First of all, I want to give a lot of credit to Dominic LeBlanc. I think he's a fantastic ambassador for the country, and he does a very good job on the file. He's very well respected in Washington, and that's who you want there. But this yearly review thing, this was a fatal flaw in the beginning when the agreement was written, when this was supposed to come. We wanted yearly reviews and everything, blah, 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 blah. Investors don't like that. People who have capital that want to throw into either country. I don't think we're going to get past 2.5% growth in the U.S. or Canada if we keep having this instability. So this is really something that is going to be super important to the success of bilateral trade agreements with the country, because people are not going to invest in capital if the government's going to change, or there's a tweet that's going to come out Friday and then one's going to come out Sunday at 4 a.m. and it's going to change everything. I don't think he realizes what he's doing. When I say he, everybody knows who he is.
Yeah,
it's not Mark Carney.
But the thing is the U.S. is growing way faster than we are right now. So they're in a position where it's like if they were reversed, the roles were reversed, I think there'd be more of a sense of urgency. Now, things aren't canceled. That's the one thing that they're finally getting the story right.
Yes.
It keeps getting discussed that the world is ending. It's over. It's not. No. It's an annual review. That being said, obviously I come from the business side and the business community. You make investments based on certainty, or, when you do your risk assessment, at least the probability. I shouldn't say certainty. It's always probability. But yeah, this is going to cause some major issues as far as the certainty going forward for those investments, for what we do. But what I'd like to see is, and I agree from the standpoint of Dominic LeBlanc being the right person there for this government, I'll say, yes, he is, because he is respected. Even when, Trump's used to have him at the dinner table still when he was mad at Carney and mad at Trudeau and all the rest of it. But what I like to see is, what are we doing? We're waiting here on what the U.S. is doing. What are we doing? That's what I want to know.
But they were the people who prompted this. So what would you like us to do?
I get it. Yeah. They prompted it.
Yeah.
But how are we reacting to it? We're reacting to it by waiting to see what the U.S. is going to do. Are they going to talk to us? Are they going to... What else are we doing? I haven't heard that part of it.
Roll the clip that I said. I'm waiting to the midterms because he will become the lamest of the lame duck presidents that exist in history.
Maybe.
And if they flip the Congress and if they flip the Senate, I'm just going to sit here and say, sometimes patience is a virtue.
So what if they don't?
If they don't, well, then we have something really to talk about, because now we're going to have the doubling down of the Trump doctrine, which is provoke, confront, bravado. And I don't think the American people are that stupid. I really think there's a lot of angry people. The MAGA base is crumbling. They're pissed off about the Iran war. There is not a single business owner in the United States that is happy with trying to even propose the false ending of a bilateral trade agreement that has grown both economies and created trillions of dollars in prosperity across border.
Those business owners, though, are also looking at what's the lesser of the two evils, right? So you're assuming they're going to be mad. I don't like the strategy of waiting. Wait for the midterms is not something. What are we doing? Because those midterms could come and go, and we're going to have that conversation. You're going to be like, holy, we got a problem. He's still there. He's still got the reins for 2 more years. Then what? So what possibly can we do now so that isn't the occurrence?
Get out the chessboard. We're going to start playing, and I'm just going to flip the board over. And what are you going to do? That's what we're dealing with. We are not dealing with normal people.
I get it, but what are we doing outside of the U.S.? Like, waiting is not
We're doing
a
a lot of stuff outside
waiting
of the
is
U.S.
A poor strategy.
Carney's completed trade deals that were started under Justin Trudeau. I think that that's a very good thing that he's doing. We're going to talk about a major thing with defense pretty soon, but he is doing what he's supposed to be doing. Trade agreements with other nations, so we're not more reliant on the U.S.
Announcements.
No, there's things that are signed.
Coming up, the ceasefire may have lasted only briefly. After fresh military action, U.S. President Donald Trump declared the deal with Iran is over, and we'll discuss that after the break. Welcome back. With the world watching to see if the ceasefire would last, U.S. President Donald Trump offered a blunt assessment of the situation. And well, we all know what that has taken place since then. Take a listen.
President Trump just a short time ago, hours ago, declared that in his view, the U.S. ceasefire with Iran is over after the two countries traded a barrage of new strikes in just the last 24 hours. Watch this.
Is the ceasefire done? Is the MOU dead?
It's a very interesting question. To me, I think it's over. I don't want to deal with them anymore. They're scum. You know what scum is? They're scum. They're sick people. They're led by sick people. And they're vicious, violent people. And if they had a nuclear weapon, they'd use it. As far as I'm concerned, it's over.
The memorandum of understanding between the two countries apparently collapsing now as President Trump attends the NATO summit in Turkey. The president has also now reimposed sanctions on Iranian oil sales. That's a key reversal of a big concession that was part of the latest ceasefire. It was part of this memorandum of understanding. Trump also called the negotiations with Iran a waste of time. Overnight, there were large explosions and fires seen at multiple ports in Iran. Those strikes are said to be the U.S. response to Iran launching a series of attacks on commercial ships near the Strait of Hormuz this week.
So they've stopped bombing. I think it was like 170 military hits. Mm-hmm. They've taken a break with the scum, as he said. I don't know how you negotiate when you call them scum and all the rest of it. That's fascinating. But yeah, they started bombing the boats. They retaliated, and now we're taking a little break. Where that break will head, I don't know. What are your thoughts?
Like, how do you take this person seriously? I'll sing a little song. Here come the midterms, because all American people know is the price of gasoline. That's it.
Yeah.
That's all they know.
Yeah.
So when Reagan was elected, gas came down. The energy crisis is over. They're going to walk in there, and this is going to be a revenge vote. This is not what people voted for. They did not vote for this 2 years ago. We had no reason to do this. I've been on this network on other shows, and I will continue to say this over and over again. There is no reason for anybody to be in that country. We had a deal already that was ending any capabilities for nuclear weapons. Okay, this is like, I don't like Obama, so I'm just going to destroy everything that he did, make the problem worse, invade the country, make a ceasefire. One of the people involved will evade it right away by attacking another country. And all I know is that in the next month, when people want to drive up north or drive to Yellowstone National Park, they're going to be really pissed off.
Yeah.
And that's why I keep saying what I'm saying about the midterms. This is not a capable president.
Well, part of the issue is,
Yeah.
and I understand, let's just say I'm not defending Trump because he's caused the problem. I'm not saying that. One of the issues is Iran still wanted us to, charge the toll in the Strait of Hormuz.
Okay.
So even if it was open, the gas prices weren't going to come down. So it wasn't going to solve his problem. It wasn't going to solve our problem. Even, north of the border, we're all experiencing this. This isn't like, it stops at the U.S. border. But that's a problem. If they've actually said, okay, we're going to have the ceasefire and we're going to do these dealings, and they're like, well, no option. You're getting charged still. Well, the gas prices aren't going down. He's in the same position he's in. Interesting as well, which we talked briefly about before the show, is he already has his assassination plans. If what should happen to him, and what should, if he gets assassanated, that Iran is going to be wiped off the planet.
Yeah, he's not.
So that's his most recent thing, and I thought, oh my gosh. So. Mm-hmm. Nothing surprises me now, unfortunately. That's a terrible thing to say, but I've always run negotiations. If I walked in and Anthony, I said, you're scum, you're a dirtbag, you're like, that's not really a great way to start. I mean, especially
I've been called worse by better people.
I'm sure you have. But this is on a national scale. This isn't
Yes.
between me and you in a text.
Exactly.
This is in front of the world at a NATO summit. He's doing this.
The most incapable president in my lifetime. When I was a kid, I thought George W. Bush has got to be the worst president. In walks Donald Trump.
So
look how cavalier he is. Look how cavalier he is. He said they might, if they had a nuclear weapon, they'd launch it.
Yeah.
How can you say that as the leader of the free world and just be like, they'd probably just blow us up?
So the midterms aren't going to change this, though. You understand that?
No, it will, because he will not be able to do half the stuff he will. He will be kiboshed by the Congress. He will be stalemated. He will not be. Everything will be by executive order. And the Supreme Court will do exactly what they did with the tariffs, and they'll strike it down. Yes, it will. People will send him a message, and they need to send him a message. Most incapable president in my lifetime.
The damage done, it could be irreversible. That's all I'm saying.
It is.
Prime Minister Mark Carney says middle powers need to work together in a changing world order. But one of the world's most influential bankers says that's a fantasy. More on this after the break. So let's go. Welcome back. Can a coalition of middle powers reshape the global economy? JP Morgan Chase CEO Jamie Dimon isn't convinced, and he's not mincing his words. Take a listen.
When Mark Carney said, the middle powers should get together, it's a fantasy. They did that. It's called Europe. And
it is hard to go to a CFR event these days where Europe doesn't get dumped on, I'm afraid.
But Europe, but this is a serious problem. The GDP of Europe has gone from 90% of America to 70%. And at the current, and our view is it'll probably continue to erode over time because high taxes, I'm not against social safety nets, and we should probably talk about that a little bit too, but they're too high and effective in a lot of countries. They have 100% debt to GDP also, but growing slow is much worse with 100% debt to GDP than growing fast. And they're kind of anti-business, poor tax structures that stop investment. Capital formation generally drives growth. A lot of that capital is moving here. Like here's some big numbers for you. Our stock exchange is worth, I think, 60, maybe 70 trillion today. Deutsche Börse, 3. The FTSE at UK, 4. The French one, 3. And that is serious stuff. And there's not a deep recognition. So Mario Draghi wrote this great report. That is what they need to do. Have a real European Union, open trade services to everyone in there, have a big common market, have a growth strategy and policies that can drive growth, and we should help them.
So first off, I've been told by some of the viewers that I have a crush on Jamie Dimon, which sounds funny. I honestly respect what he says, and he speaks at a normal level that anyone can understand usually. I mean, this is obviously a little different when he's talking about stock markets. He's got a very pragmatic view to the economy, and it's aside from partisan politics. It's just the way it is. I'm not saying agreeing with him. I'm going to say, because I need to cut you off on this one because I know you're going to go on a rant. I'm not saying, don't put your I'm not,
because you said a crush on a guy?
No, I'm not saying that, I'm not saying Carney has a fantasy.
Okay.
I'm saying it's half-baked. Your plan is not there. You're making statements without the backing. And I said this when it first came out, when he had the big speech at Davos, and Ashley and I got into it. I said, that's great. But it was like a Tom Cruise speech of like, who's with me? And Jerry Maguire for old school reference. Have your back channeling done. Have your understanding of who. And the other question is, are we truly a middle power? And what does that look like compared to like a superpower? Like the gaps are getting bigger, and where do we fit? So first of all, solidify your position. Second of all, bake your cake before you come out and do that. So
I wasn't going to talk about the prime minister at all. I watched this, and I watched the clip. I watched the full clip, and I listened. And like, what's the difference between growth in the European Union and the growth in the United States? It's between 1.6% versus 2.5%. So are they really growing that much more than the European Union? One could argue that the United States is made up of 50 different countries, where 5 of them are performing at a level that you would be doing backflips and cartwheels over, and the other 45 are like, can we have some of the money? That sounds a lot like Europe. And I think it's hilarious that Mario Draghi wrote that beautiful thing that I read, by the way, and he's absolutely correct. And he was like the prime minister or the president of Italy. There's 2 of them. I don't remember which one it is off the top of my head. And now he's gone. And I'm just sitting there thinking, like, yeah, the European Union has a lot to work on. They have a lot to do. There's countries that are way behind growth on other countries. But one could argue that the United States and the European Union function the same. There's 5 big players in the U.S., 5 states that make all the money, and the rest of them are the Oliver Twist.
He's
Can
talking
I have
about
some more?
He's more
please?
talking about the rules between them, though.
Yeah.
And second of all, he wasn't talking about growth. He was talking about capital formation, which is different. If you don't have the capital,
But he
you
mentioned
can't-
growth rate, though,
he
in
did,
that
but
segment.
if you don't have the capital formation, you can't grow. So what his point is all this money is trickling out of Europe. All this money is trickling, all those stock exchanges, it's trickling. And where's it going? It's going to the U.S.
Okay.
So the ability to grow requires capital formation. The U.S., it is trickling in there. So when, the capital, the growth will happen, it's not an if, it's a when. And as your capital leaves, the growth is less likely, is what he's trying to say.
Yeah.
So get your stuff in order. When he says that's about Europe, well, you look at Brexit, you look at, the complications they have with trade. Look at Canada. Our interprovincial, that's what I want to go, is like, we can't fix our own house interprovincial.
That could be a whole segment.
That should be a whole segment.
That could be a whole segment. But I want to talk about this, though, because this is where my mind runs to. He wants to flex about $60 trillion stock market worth. Who owns 90% of that stock market? 10% of the wealthiest Americans. 90% of Americans do not have a single share in that wealth.
Sure.
So if we want to talk about quality of life in Europe versus the U.S., I'd love to have that conversation because nobody wants to talk
very
about
different
that stuff.
conversation.
But that should be part of that conversation.
After the break, another trade dispute could be brewing between Canada and China. Beijing's moving towards tariffs on a Canadian agricultural product, and producers are watching closely.
I say no, you say stop, but I say let's go. Shots are fired only with an earth gun, cause things go better when the weight is done. I love no hate, don't waste time, cause we're not on the party line, so let's go.
Welcome back. Just as Canada looks to expand trade opportunities abroad, a key export could be facing new barriers in China. Take a look.
China is imposing a 73.5% tariff on Canadian pea starch. According to China's Ministry of Commerce, an investigation found Canadian pea starch was being dumped in the country, causing, quote, material injury to the domestic industry. The probe began last August at the same time China imposed anti-dumping duties on Canadian canola. This would appear to be an escalation of the trade tensions, which has seemingly improved in recent months.
So first off, I'm going to apologize to our friends in the in the central Canada, because both of you and I had to look up what pea starch was.
Yeah.
But we also talked about canola before as well. Yeah. Didn't know the impact of it. I had no idea. Obviously, there's tons of industries that we don't know about in agriculture's, not my background. I was shocked at the size of the market, and secondly, the dumping side just reeks to me.
When I read the title that China is furious that Canadian pea starch is being illegally dumped and hurting their market, I was like, pot me kettle.
Yeah.
Pot. That's all I said. Pot me kettle.
Yeah.
I almost didn't even read about it because I'm like, this is the biggest example of like trade hypocrisy. China has been illegally dumping crap in our country and the U.S. for decades.
Right, but they tried to bridge.
Yes.
We're trying to kiss and make up.
Okay.
What is it? 50,000, 35,000 or 50,000 cars. Sorry. It's supposed to be 35 grand a piece are coming in. That's settled. And then, by the way, we're going to put more
Send the
tariffs on
cars
you.
back.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting.
Send the cars back.
What do
Take
you
the
think?
pea starch.
And
Yeah.
what's the likelihood of that?
That's not going to happen because they're a far superior economy than we are. Like, what are we going to do? Canada had. This is what I always say when I read history. The time for our country to expand and explode was the 70s, 80s, and 90s. And we just kind of kept going, and we were just like, you know what? I live in a bungalow. I like my bungalow. I don't want a 2-story house. And now we're seeing what everyone else is doing. We're like, damn, I should have built a house.
Yeah, but we're still sitting on all these. We're mineral rich. We shouldn't be doing this. We should be growing. And as you said, we rested on our laurels, and now we're toast.
Yeah.
The generation before.
I didn't say we're toast. I just said when you settle for stagnicity, that's what happens. So
if you want to play the blame game, I blame the generation before myself. I'm an economics major, and I learned a lot. And I got very mad at my mother in university from look what your generation did to us. Look what's my eyes were kind of obviously open to that.
Oh, you mean destroying every single opportunity for economic prosperity that we possibly could have had? That wasn't just real estate? Oh, wow, you don't say.
But what we need now is we're looking at replacing the U.S. with China. That's what we've done.
I don't think that's what it is.
I know you don't think that.
No.
I know exactly what you're going to say on this.
But because it's not true.
Well, we're taking all our eggs and saying, okay, the U.S., we're going to run over to you, and now we're going to look at China. who else are we looking at? You're going to say, well, we have tons of agreements now. I'm going to do the show. I'm going to do both of us right now, okay? But what my point is what else are we doing? Where else can this product go? What we have to have different risk mitigation plans than we did before because the rules are out the window.
So you're an economics major. You just said something
Long time ago.
Yes. No. Well, you're not that old. We have critical minerals here. Why is Canada not building electric vehicles? Why is Canada not saying we're done with these stupid these agreements with these oil companies? We're building our own refineries. We're going to nationalize the industry and we're going to take control. This is the lazy part of it. You're arguing with me that there's critical minerals. If I was the prime minister, I'd say, okay, so then why am I buying cars from China? Why is Canada not building the cars? Which is why I agreed with the approach the Trudeau government took. Right. Set up the supply chain, set up the factories, and build the stuff here.
And now they're sitting empty.
Mr. Feor is not upset about that. He would be very happy with that. So if the argument is we're replacing the U.S. with China, no, why don't we not replace anything with anybody? Why don't we say, you know what, we're going to invest $100 billion in capital of our own tax money, and we're going to build the industry here and put Canadians back to work? No, you're right. We are stagnant and lazy, and we take the easy way out. So if we have all these, if we're mineral rich and that's supposed to be the savior of the economy, why are we not having that be the savior of the labor market so we can have the next generation? Because you just said we were robbed. Let's unrob the generation and build the jobs here. That's what I would be doing.
Well, let's see what happens. That's an interesting
Start
take.
running for office, maybe.
Thanks again for joining us in the Party Lines this week, and a special thanks to Anthony Feor. We'll see you again next week.